Hello everyone, welcome back. So in our WebdriverIO series, today we are going to see how to debug the WebdriverIO test cases in Visual Studio Code. And this is pretty much similar to JavaScript or TypeScript, whichever language you are using that. Okay, now let's talk about why do we need to debug actually. So there are instances where, like, let's say that you have lot of different methods or the utility methods that you have added, but then you are getting some error actually. Now your output gives you exactly on what file or what method it created the issue, but then the underlying methods which really caused that particular issue, you might not be getting that. So that's where the debugging is easy. Or maybe let's say that there are a couple of variables that you don't know what would be the output. So normally what we do, we have to add lot of variables and printing that into the console so that into the output we can see that, which is sometimes difficult to first add it and then remove it when you really run it into your pipelines or something. So that is why it's easy to debug. Or let's say that you are adding a new test case, but then you want to debug just to make sure that the flow is correct. So at that time the debugging is required, or mostly it is benefited. So out of the box there are a couple of things that we need to do, or the configurations to handle the debugging. So let's get started and see how we can achieve that. So for this I have taken the wdio project, which by default it is coming, right? If you see the POM which we have created while installing, I'm taking that as an example. Like if you go to the test case, here so many utility methods they have mentioned, like the open method, or like let's talk about the login, or like let's say that the secure page plus dot flash alert, or the get URL. So these are the methods which is not present into this particular file, and it might be underlying calling another methods, that might be the cause. And I have added the breakpoints. Now what are these breakpoints? So these breakpoints are basically where your test case will be pausing for a moment, and where you can control the execution from there. Do you want to go to the next, or do you want to go inside that particular method or that particular line to see what are the underlying methods are there? So that is what it is very important. Like if you don't give the breakpoints and then you debug your test cases or this particular project, it will not stop anywhere. It will just go as you are running as a real time. So it is very important to give the breakpoints wherever you feel like it is an issue. Okay, so that is what actually we have to do. So let's say that I have just taken arbitrarily some of the breakpoints just to showcase how do we really control the execution. And I have already updated the wdio spec. Let me see that if I have did that. Okay, I have not done that, so I will be choosing this one, test POM specs, and then it will be choosing this as my test case to run. Okay, fine. Now if I run this as regular, let's say that I'm opening my terminal and I will just say that npm run wdio, it will run as usual. Though I'm giving the the breakpoints, it will go as usual. So we need to turn on the debug actually. So there are two ways that I can debug actually. Let me show you the first approach, and it is very easy to do that. So what you need to do, you have to go to this. Now if you see that there is a run and debug option is there in your Visual Studio Code as well, whether it is Windows or Mac, this option will be there. So just click on this. Now you see something here called as JavaScript debug terminal. Doesn't matter if you're using JS or TS, the TypeScript one, but you can click on this and you see that there is a new option appeared here, that is JavaScript debug terminal. This says that this terminal, if you execute here, it acts as a debugging your test where the breakpoints will be applicable here. Okay, like if you don't want to really do it, there is another way also. Like you just go to the terminal. Let me delete it for now. And then if I go back here, you see there is a drop down here and you can see JavaScript debug terminal. You can even click on that. Okay, now here what I am going to do, npm run wdio. As usual, there is no specific command that you need to execute here to debug, but you need to make sure that you are on the JS debug terminal. Now I will just run this command, and you can see that the bottom is a different color, which says that you are on a debug mode, and you can see couple of options are appearing here. Okay, now it will take some time to come to this particular breakpoint, and you see that it is stuck to this particular login screen. You see that the username and password is not yet entered because the control did not yet go to this particular line. I have given a breakpoint, so it is breaking there, and it is allowing us to make sure that this line is correct, or you want to debug more. Debug is nothing but getting inside and trying to understand if the methods that you have implemented is correct or wrong. So let's say, and you can see there is a toolbar. It's a floating toolbar which goes right and left. Actually, I cannot move up and down, and you can see there are a couple of options are coming. If you see this one, this says that continue. In this sense, this will skip all the breakpoints, and then it will go till the end as you are running your test case. There is one more option that is available, and you can see as a step over. Step over is nothing but, let's say that you are on this line, you are good with this line, now you want to go to the next line of the code, then you can just click on this one. Okay, and then there is something called as a step into. Step over means go to the next line. Step into means just stay into that line but get inside that. I'm doing that now, so I will be clicking on the step into. Now you see that I'm on the example.e2e, so the test case level I'm into. Now if I go to the step into, and you can see now it is going to the underlying method. Actually here the underlying method is login.getURL, right? And that is under your this particular page, actually get URL page. Now it is coming here. Okay, now here what I need to debug, so I need to see that whether this get URL is giving me the correct URL or not, right? Now when I am into this particular line, this is not yet executed. To execute that, I have to go to the next line of the code. But let's say that for some reason you want to go one more level down actually to see what is this get URL. So again you click on this step into and you go inside this. Let's say that you are done with this. Now you want to come back to the previous or the called method actually. So you have to click on the step out actually. So this is step in and this is step out. And you can see you are coming back to this. But while you are doing that, you see that there is an error, it is coming, and which says that error timeout. Now what is this? It was unintentional, right? Or you are not expected actually this one. So this is because you are giving the particular framework, that is the Jasmine framework, to execute each test case within 25,000 millisecond actually. Okay, now because we are on to the debug mode and slowly we are executing this and pausing somewhere, analyzing something, so the timeout is happening. Okay, so then how do we do that? So one of the quicker option, you can go to the wdio.com.ts, go inside the Jasmine or Jasmine spec options, I guess. Let's go to that section actually. So yeah, if you see here Jasmine options, here you see the default timeout interval is 25,000. You can just add whatever you want. Sorry, so you can add two zeros, so then it will be like getting more time. But then what you need to do when you execute this one, now for debug you have increased the time. Now let's say you are running it into the CI/CD pipeline, and then let's say that there is some issue is coming and it is keep on waiting, then your execution time also increases, right? Which is not a good option. So it means that you need to update it back actually to the 25,000 millisecond again once your debug is done, and which I really don't think is a good idea. So we need to do some kind of conditional stuff where I will say that if it is debug, then you execute with this much timeout, and if it is not a debug or a regular run, you go with the normal timeout. How do we do that? Let's see. So what I'm going to do, I will be adding some more stuff here. So like let's say that I will come back here, I'll create one process environment variable. Actually, I have already discussed that. If you see the environment, we are giving environment as QA, dev, or like let's say that your pre-prod or prod. The same way I will be accepting a parameter from the command line. See, all these things are command lines, right? Whichever we are doing here, this is a command line. Sorry, let me do a control C, or maybe let's stop it. Let's disconnect this actually, and now you should be coming. Now if you see that I'm executing, sorry, to execute that I'm running npm run wdio, right? So here I need to send some parameter by saying that I'm now doing the debug. So that is what I'm going to capture here. So I'll say let debug, some variable I'm taking, and I will say process.env.debug. Okay, now what is this? So now this is whatever I'm specifying here, that variable value will be assigning to the debug. Now for an instance, let's say that, oops, sorry, so I will do something like this, debug equal to true. Okay, and then I will say the actual command. Now that is what will be assigned to the debug. Okay, now this variable is becoming a true, actually a boolean value assigned. But now how do I maintain the condition here into the Jasmine spec? So that's where we will be using the conditional operator actually. So if I quickly go to this, okay, so here I will be writing one line actually. So I will say that so let's do one thing actually. So default timeout interval, and then I will be saying here I will be putting a debug flag actually here, and then a condition. Okay, now I'm saying that when the debug is true, then you take more time. Okay, now if it is false, then you do the regular interval. Okay, so that is what I'm specifying here. That sounds good, right? Now what normally happens, debug, it's a variable. If it is true, this parameter will be assigned to this one. If it is false, then it will take after the colon. That's the conditional operator we have seen. In most of the languages, this remains same. So that is what I'm implementing here. Fine. Now if I run this one, debug equal to true npm run wdio, then it will wait for this much amount of time. Let's say that I can have another 0. And then if I run this one, now it will not give me a timeout. How much time I need, this will just stay as it is only. So I'm running on the debug mode. Okay, now it's stuck into this because of this breakpoint as we discussed. Now I have discussed about the step in, right? Now let's get into this. Okay, now as I said, when you are on this line, you will not be getting this output actually, this browser.get URL. Okay, this will not be giving any of your data here. But then when you go next line, see, how will I execute this? So I have to get out of this. When the control goes to this line, then this line is executed. It means that if I say that execute it, that is nothing but getting inside. Now you see that it got executed. And now you see that there is a return value is appearing here. And if you see here, it actually gives you the return value. Now this get URL is nothing but this one. Okay, the internet. Now if I drag it, it is login. Now let's see if it is really the login, and you can see that the URL is matching. So that's how you will be debugging to make sure that this get URL really works fine. Okay, now let's say that I'm done with this, I'm good with this one, I need to get out from this. How will you do that? So you just come out. See, this is again inside this, right? This particular line. So what I need to do to come out of this, I will say that again step out. Okay, see, from the browser.get URL definition, I stepped out to this one. Now from here again I need to step out so that I can reach to this one. So I need to click on this, and you can see now I came back to the original position here. Now here this line is, see, not yet executed. You see the console output is not yet printed, but now I want to execute this. You see the control is here. Now if I click this, and you see that this line got executed and I'm getting the output. So this is what you need to always keep it in mind. Now let's say that login page dot login. I want to get inside this to make sure that these two variables or the values are going inside this login or not. Let's see that. So what I am going to do, if I go inside, step into, and you can see it came here, and you see here the username and password is appearing here. From where it got, the login parameters are coming from here. So from here we are stepping inside to this particular line of the code. Now here let's say that I want to execute line by line. What we did last time, from the get URL we stepped out, right? I don't want to step out now. I want to really see whether this is executed or not. Now what I'm going to do, as I said, if I want to execute this, I'll click on this, and you can see it went to the new line, and with my thought that this username should be printed now into the application, and you can see it printed. Now let's execute this line. Okay, now the password is printed here, and you can see the password which you have got it. Okay, now let's execute this line where button dot submit, and you see that the login becomes successful. Now I have to get out of this. Now here what I can do, I can run the next line. See, there is no other things after this, right? This login method, once it is done, there is no other thing to go inside. So if you are giving this step over, it is coming back to the original because there is no other lines of code to execute it. So that is how you can see that. The only thing that here you note down is that if you get inside this return value printed here, okay, I mean you see into the variable list, and also the variables, these are nothing but the variables, right? Those are listing here. But then if you go inside, I'll show you that one more thing. Now there is nothing here actually to see that, right? So I will be going step over, okay, and I will be executing, and you can see another page URL got, and this is secure URL, and you can see secure URL is coming. Like that you will be keep comparing. Now let me go to the next line, and here you see that secure page dot flash alert. Now this will, if I get inside, step into, now here you see that return flash. Now if I go to the next line, what is my thought, that I should get the return value, and let's go to the return value, and you see that it is not coming here. It says that if you go to here, there is no result here I'm getting. The reason is that, and if I go anywhere, I'm not getting any result actually here. Like if you see that there is nothing actually it is coming. The reason is that it is not resolving the promises. But when you go inside, here this is return await, means as soon as I have executed this line of code, this is giving me the report. But when I'm getting inside this is not resolving the promise because I have not entered the async and await. So if you want to really see this variable or the element is located or not, you can assign it to a variable so that that variable will be appearing here with a async await. Or maybe you can remove this one, you can say async here, and you can say that await. So that what will happen, you will see that the promise will be resolved, and you should see this particular element appearing here. Okay, so you can try that. Now let's say that I'm going to the next line of code, and which is appearing here, and then the next, and you see that this await or the expect is executed. That's why I'm not getting any error here. Now let's say that I'm good with my different things these are, and then if I execute this next, it will go to the next line. There is no other lines. But let's say that there are 3 more lines are available here, and you want to just continue as usual. You don't want to go line by line execution. What you can do, you can just click on this continue, then it will go till the next breakpoint is encountered actually. So that is one thing you need to remember. Okay, if you want to continue from, like let's say that this is my breakpoint, and then I just went inside this, I'm done with everything, I stepped out and came back to this normal. I don't want to do all these things line by line. What I can do, I can click on this particular option, continue. So this will continue as usual, but then it will again come back to this particular next encountered the breakpoint. But let's say that I want to skip all the upcoming breakpoints, then you see there is something called as a disconnect. So this disconnect will disconnect all the breakpoints that is available, and then it ended the execution. And you see that I think we kind of went from nearly 8 it is, I don't know, it is 8 minutes, I guess. Yeah, so 8 minutes it is taken, and then it didn't time out also. And the reason is that we have already handled that with this debug flag. So you have to always make sure that this debug equal to true you are giving it. Now in your real time, when you are executing this in the in the normal like CI/CD pipeline or the containers, you just need to run this npm run wdio. Now what will happen, the debug flag which you have mentioned here, right, that will become false, and then your usual timeout will be retaining on that, so that it won't wait for that much of time to become timeout in your real time. So this is one thing to note here. Okay, fine. So I think we are now comfortable with this particular, how do you really step over, step into, step out and disconnect. So we have seen one way, right, that you need to click on this particular JavaScript debug terminal, okay, which is appearing here. There is another way. Let's say that I don't want to really do this. Let me delete everything. Now I'm into this normal actually. How do I do the other way? Okay, so there is another way actually. What you need to do, you need to click on this and then go to the your menu bar, and you see something is view command palette actually, and this is shift command P, and I think it is control alt P for Windows, but whatever it is there, you just find the command palette for this one, and you see there is something called as a debug. Okay, and you see toggle, and if you go here, if you click on that toggle option, you get couple of options. One is always smart, only with flag, and then disabled. Okay, now I will talk about these two options now. Always when you say that, it means that any kind of project that you have, right, into a Visual Studio Code, always means if you are going into the debug mode, it will be debug, you will be running into the debug mode. Like if I selected now always, right, and you see that at the bottom it is saying that debug. Okay, now how do I run that? Now if I run this npm run wdio, any run, it will become a debug mode actually there. You don't need to specially go inside this and click on this. Fine, but as I said, we need to go with that debug flag, debug equal to true. See, there is one thing to note. There is no relation between this debug equal to true and this always. This one I'm just giving for the purpose of waiting for more time. Let's not get confused that if I make debug equal to true, then only it will become into the debug mode. No, it's not that. The debug is always depends on which option you're choosing, either this one or this one. This one is for only timeout. Now let's see if this really works or not. And you see the debug is listening to, so it is taking its own the port and the local host, and then it is into the debug mode, and it should now stay into this breakpoint or stop into this breakpoint. Okay, now it went into this. Now let's see this. We didn't see this continue, right? As I told, this continue will skip the line by line execution and directly get into this. Let's try that. And you see, it executed all these options and it would have been even signed in. And then it went here. Now let's say I want to skip this particular breakpoint, and then you just click and then it went out. I don't know why it become failed. Let's see. Expected function to have contain. Yeah, it should. You logged into the secured area. I don't know why this didn't go, but then it should actually. I don't know, but there is some issue it appeared, and this is not in timeout, but probably this is because some other issues. Expected function to be existing. Okay, I don't know what happened, but I will be debugging later actually this one. But then the main idea is to show how this always is coming here. There is one more option that I told to you guys, right? Like if you, let's say that only with flag. Now I was just thinking why this option is there when I'm choosing always. Then when I figured out, like let's say that you have so many projects in your in your system. Let's say that you have 10 different projects. One is for Node.js development, another is for React.js, and then one more is for webdriverIO, another is for Cypress. Like these different options are there, and you don't want to really run with this command whichever whenever you are running it normal, because you made it as always. This will always run it, right? I mean the normal npm run wdio will also go into the debug mode. You don't want to do that. So normally there is an option what you can do whenever you are making this only with flag, and here you see that you need to give this hyphen hyphen inspect flag is given. So what you need to do, you need to go to your I think it is into the wdio. Let's see that. I really forgot about that. But if I go inside the webdriverIO documentation, they have specified this one. Yeah, if you see here, like they have mentioned this one. Okay, so you have to put this command actually here, which will tell that whether it is into the debug mode or not. Let's try this, and I will go to this, and here actually, yeah, here somewhere. Now let's put it here actually, and then put this, and now this debug will become true, and indirectly, because see I'm keeping this debug equal to true, right? So indirectly this true will be assigned to this inspect, and that is what actually it is telling. So this inspect will be flag will be become true. Now let me run this. Okay, so for some reason actually this inspect flag is not working, so it is kind of disconnecting from the debug, but this is one of the way that you can do that. I will try to find it out more about this issue and will let you know guys. But then if there is nothing much works, then you can go to the JavaScript debug terminal and you can use those options which was coming into this particular space, and you can step into step over or continue the execution. Okay, so that's pretty much it for today. Hope this session is helpful and you have got an idea about how to debug. So stay tuned and do subscribe to this YouTube channel because we will be seeing some more interesting topics. Thank you for watching.